Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking and I want to really know your opinion on this. So apparently ancient Roman lead, meaning ingots produced by the ancient Romans made of lead, have been used in the cryogenic dark matter search, which is, as far as I can understand, an experiment that was carried out in Minnesota, and it's a physics experiment. And this has in fact sparked some controversy. On one side of the matter, there is the idea of, well, we could use some material to help us advance in physics and science, then we should use it, whether it be 2,000 years old or not. But on the other side, there is the idea of preserving historical heritage, particularly in the archaeological and historical community, because, of course, this methodology is destructive in nature. Now, I can see where they are both coming from, but before we can make our own mind, I think we should dig a little deeper. So here is an article about it. It's from Scientific American, and it's titled, Ancient Roman Metal Used for Physics Experiment Ignites Science Feud. Physicists prefer Roman-era lead ingots to recently mined metal for shielding particle experiments, but archaeologists want them preserved. Archaeologists and physicists are at loggerheads over ancient Roman lead, a substance highly prized by both camps for sharply diverging reasons. Very old lead is pure, dense, and much less radioactive than the newly mined metal, so it is ideal for shielding sensitive experiments that hunt for dark matter and other rare particles. But it also has historical significance, and many archaeologists object to melting down 2,000-year-old Roman ingots that are powerful windows on ancient history. So already, I think we need to kind of talk about this. Before we even jump into the actual controversy, maybe some of you might even be surprised by the idea of the Romans had lead, and the answer is absolutely yes. The Romans had access to lead, to tin, to iron, to steel, to bronze, yes, I did say steel, to bronze, to copper, and all sorts of different metals, some of which, unless you actually dive into ancient Roman metallurgy, might even sound modern to you. No, they're not. I mean, yeah, they didn't have titanium, okay? And great, but they did have access to all of these metals. And in fact, I will tell you on this video a little bit about Roman mining on the latter section of this video, so do watch until the end, you muppet. But in general, lead was a highly prized metal. But in general, yes, the Romans did seek, extract, and refine lead, and they did have several military and economic uses for it, which we will address later. With that being said, I do understand why archaeologists would be objecting towards the idea of melting down something that is 2,000 years old and has reached us in such good conditions. I mean, at the end of the day, I collect all sorts of old school computers, and already I always try to do the very best, even if it costs me quite a bit of money sometimes when there is shipment involved and there is a CRT. I just always want to make sure that technology that has survived 40 plus years is treated as the antique that it is, with respect and with care. Because can you imagine, like, something it's survived 40 years just to be destroyed during shipment? I can absolutely understand, because then you have to multiply that 10 times fold when something is 2,000 freaking years old. With that being said, I think for me, this would have been worse if it was something artistic. So I would side with the archaeologist if the items being destroyed were helmets, statues, weapons, anything that has been manipulated through craftsmanship, art, military purpose, because yeah, that would be a tremendous waste. But an ingot, not so much of a problem for me. Given, would I want the ingots to be thoroughly studied and examined before they are used for these physics department and applications? Absolutely. Definitely. At this point, you could even do some destructive analytic methods, which usually archaeologists try to avoid. So oftentimes we use non-destructive methods of analysis, which are not oftentimes as accurate or as descriptive as destructive ones, precisely because we don't want to destroy elements and items that have survived so many years. But in this case, it could be a win-win in the sense that you could do all sorts of analyses on the metal that can literally help us expand our understanding of ancient Roman metallurgy. And then if there is an application within physics departments that can really help speed up our understanding of science, then at that point I would say, yeah, use it. It's not a big deal. At least that would be me. Once again, if this was instead a beautiful work of art, yeah, no, because at that point we are losing so much that the only way in which I would say yes to melting down a work of art would be complete absence of any other source for that sort of of metal or product or whatever it is that they're looking for, constituent, or a discovery so pivotal that it could literally throw us 50 years in the future and help resolve lots of problems that are critical to our society. So then it depends. So it really is a situation that needs to be weighed depending on what we have to gain. So let's keep reading. Open quotes. Are these experiments important enough to destroy parts of our past, to discover something about our future? Close quotes, says Elena Perez Alvaro, an archaeology graduate student at the University of Birmingham in England, who wrote a paper on the dilemmas involved in Rosetta, an archaeological journal published by the University of Birmingham. Now, just to give you a little bit, I looked her up, and indeed she has a lot of publications, so great, PhD in cultural heritage, if it's this person, but I believe it is, particularly with underwater archaeological preservations of goods that, of course, are historical in nature. We have underwater cultural heritage diplomacy between hybrid warfare and conflict resolution, decommissioning offshore structures and large ships, a threat or an underwater cultural heritage opportunity. So as you see, it seems like she's very active in this idea of preservation, which, once again, as I was saying, I do agree with on principle, but as stated before, ingots are probably kind of on the lower end within the spectrum of value of ancient artifacts. But still, an archaeology graduate student, okay. Some physics argue that getting hold of the metal is worth fighting for, open quotes. These experiments can reveal some of the most fundamental properties of the universe and answer questions such as what are we and where we come from, close quotes, says physicist M. Fernando González Zalba of the University of Cambridge, who collaborated with Perez Alvaro's investigation, open quotes, I think it's worth it, close quotes. Well, to be honest, I mean, these questions, I'm not sure why he put it in these terms, because these questions sound philosophical in nature. I would be more interested in the direct applications of whatever we can gain in the best case scenario from these specific types of, as we read, cryogenic dark matter research. Because at the end of the day, I'm more interested in that. Because I doubt that you can answer some of the deepest questions with this. With Roman lead. So what I do think, however, is that yes, if they tell me no, if we do this, then we will be able to build machines that can push us towards the production of more functional quantum computers, or it can help us understand how the universe works in the sense that now we understand matter better, and so we can do better prediction and help curing diseases, or we can create machines that will help us produce more food more easily. Like, I would like some direct application of why this research you're doing is so important, at least from the public's perspective. Ancient Roman lead has been used in the cryogenic dark matter search, an experiment in Minnesota that aims to detect the particles that make up the invisible dark matter, thought to contribute much of the universe's mass. And given, I mean, the topic is fascinating, absolutely. I'm intrigued. 100%. So I would say, yeah, use the lead. How many do we have? I mean, do you have to use all of them? Like, that's another important factor that we should know, because how many intact lead ingots from the Roman period do we have?